made up thing, not an alien like I would be. But I'm a human. Hello, everyone, and welcome to an off-season episode of Bodied, a Cloud9 fan cast. I'm your host, Havokpus, a human. With me is another fellow human, Frozencreek.
Hello. How has your quarantine been?
Pretty good.
Since last week.
I've been on shift for the past couple of weeks, so it's been work.
Oh yeah, I've been working too, but I have also almost watched all 3 seasons of Avatar in the last week
nice.
and a half. Great show. I did not know it was this
It's
good.
pretty good. I haven't seen it in a while. I need to watch it again.
Yeah, they just put it back on Netflix, or just put it on Netflix. I don't know, something like that. And
It's on Netflix. The important
wanted
thing.
something to watch, so I started watching it, and I've blown through it. I need to finish the last 3 or 4 episodes of the 3rd season, so I'm almost there, but I'm pretty stoked to find out the ending, even though I can probably hypothesize that what the ending is going to be.
Yeah, pretty much.
But still. But
I've been watching Sailor Moon. I have Sprint, and Sprint will like have this deal where it's like, oh yeah, if you have like an unlimited plan or whatever, you can get Hulu. Like we'll just let you have a Hulu. And so I've been
nice.
I've been watching Sailor Moon. And
is that like actually good? It's
Sailor
been a
Moon?
while. Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched it.
What you probably remember is the sanitized like 4 children dub.
Yeah, Cartoon Network.
Yeah. So like they called Sailor Moon like Serena, and they did like a bunch of other American things. Like they made like Neptune and Uranus like instead of being lesbians and just making like, hey, it's a lesbian couple. Kids' minds won't be blown by this or anything. They're like, no, let's make them cousins. So like all the weird romantic subtext that I think they didn't. The stuff that they didn't edit out made it even creepier because it's like, man, you're really, really like your cousin.
Oh, interesting. Yeah,
I haven't gotten there yet, though.
That. Okay.
I haven't gotten there yet, though. Oh yeah, like it's surprisingly funny. Like legitimately, it's imagine like there's a comic book called Empowered, and it's kind of the similar thing of where Sailor Moon is the main character and she's a superhero, but she's really, really bad at being a superhero.
Okay.
So it's mostly her just being like a silly bubblehead and like being really goofy and being goofy with her friends. And then like an alien, like a bad guy comes. She kind of fights the bad guy, but she ends up like getting knocked down or like, oh no, I can't defeat them on my own or whatever. And like the other Sailor Scouts or like Tuxedo Mask or whatever like comes in to like save her. And then like she just kind of does the killing blow. So
oh nice, that's dope.
Yeah, it's kind of formulaic. It's kind of like a Power Rangers type deal where like a lot of like I guess like Sentai kind of shows where it's like very formulaic in how it goes, but it's pretty enjoyable. I want to get to the later parts of the series that I remember and don't remember because I want to get to I think it gets darker eventually. And I hear there's some pretty cool parts in it at least, and I want to see it all because the version that I remember is apparently not the good version.
Yeah, I don't remember much from it, but I remember it like being decent.
Yeah, the one thing that bugs me actually is that outside of them calling Serena, see, I call her Serena. I call her Serena even though her name is Usagi. I still refer to her as Serena, and also they made Luna not British because I think in the original version Luna had a British voice, and she doesn't in this.
Oh, okay.
And it kind of bugs me. Because she sounded really good. It's like a British cat because she's kind of a stuck-up kind of like mom figure, and she's kind of bossy. So it made sense. Like, oh, look, she's British.
Huh? Yeah, because I'm looking for something to watch after I finish Avatar today. So I don't know.
Hopefully, we'll find something. But yeah. Enough anime talk, Frozen. We got some Cloud9 stuff to gab about. I guess first and foremost...
One more thing.
Okay.
We're recording this at around noon Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday. So anything that happens afterwards, we will not be talking about.
Don't blame us.
And that will become important at some point. So
yes.
Sorry, continue.
Okay, well, the boys are back in town, Frozen. The C9 WoW team returns. and they participated in the first NA Cup of the AWC season, and they crushed it. They beat Method Orange 4-1 in the finals. They're looking pretty hot. They're up to their old tricks of the Warlock Mage combination with like a healer. I guess like monks are the meta healer now, so they basically just do monk, warlock, and now it's fire mage instead of frost mage, which Wealthy used to play frost mage, but it's pretty much their same old setup, and they're looking pretty good on it. So they won their first little mini tournament, which is pretty great to see. I'm glad they haven't lost the step with anything.
Yeah, that's dope. Just continuing on from where they were. Maybe not at the end of the last season, but during when they won. What was the big thing they won last year?
I don't think they won BlizzCon. I think they won like the summer championship, maybe. Hold on.
Yeah, that might be it.
Okay, they won. Oh, that was recently. Shit. Last year. Yeah, they won the summer finals. The North American like summer championship for North America, and then they placed third at BlizzCon.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, but if you go to their like Wikipedia page, they have some really solid finishes, like first, third, which is BlizzCon, and then like second, third, fourth, first. Like the team is really, really good. Just looking at like their placements for these like mini cups, as well as some bigger events and whatnot. So it's good to see. They're a lesser team. People don't appreciate the WoW team, but I do.
Yeah, I wish they played more because I did enjoy watching it the one time I did watch it.
Yeah, the summer season just started, so I think that now, like every weekend you'll pretty much see like a cup being played, I think, or maybe like every 2 weeks. So definitely keep an eye out for when those start, because they're fun to watch. It's really interesting how WoW PvP works.
Yeah, I was never a WoW player, but it is nice.
Yeah.
But zooming ahead.
Yes, zooming right ahead. We're going into Rocket League, and the boys they played in this Fusion North American qualifiers, and they lost in round 4 of the losers bracket. But it was a weird tournament. Like it was like, I think it was like 3-on-3s, and then it went to 2-on-2, and then it was like a 1v1, and then I think you did maybe like another 1v1 as like a tiebreaker or something. It was like a weird kind of like relay kind of format. It was really weird.
Oh yeah, I remember it being weird when I watched them lose. I think it was 2v2. Is that what it was?
It's a weird thing where I think it went like they did like one game where it was 3v3, and then they did a 2v2, and then they did a 1v1, and then I think that maybe for a tiebreaker they had to do something else. I'm not exactly sure. It was a weird format.
Okay, that might have been it then. I wasn't paying too much attention to what was happening when they weren't playing. So
yeah. Probably a bigger thing to talk about though, there was some rumors being thrown out that C9 may be looking to get out of Rocket League, which is pretty interesting because this is one of the longest running rosters that C9's had, and it used to be really successful, and now I don't know what has happened with Squishy and Gimmick and Torment, but they're just playing like shells of their former self, and they're not able to play successfully at the level that everyone's kind of expected them to. So I'm really curious to see what's going to happen to Rocket League within the next like 6 months. If C9's going to stay in it, if they're going to make roster changes, if they're just going to pull out because the scene is kind of shrinking or going in a direction they don't like appreciate. Who knows? But it really sucks to see this team that won a world championship. They won a world championship.
Yeah, and not that long ago either.
No, it was like 2 years ago.
Yeah, but ever since then they've been a shadow of themselves, and I guess I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. It's kind of a C9 special, as it were, because it's I've noticed that like for a lot of teams, it's like we win like the big title, right? And then the team immediately takes a nosedive in performance. Because it happened with CS:GO. We had a Hearthstone, not a Hearthstone, a Heroes of the Storm team that won a world championship, and then they immediately folded. The London Spitfire is nowhere near where they are skill wise. Vainglory, well, they didn't win, but they went third at Worlds and then they folded. So you see this pattern of just big successes and achievements and then just nothing.
Yeah, but this has been a long time coming. I feel like ever since they won that championship.
Yeah, they've been struggling pretty much ever since they won it, and they've just been doing worse and worse. And I'm really curious to see what's going to happen if they're just going to start like making roster changes and like getting rid of some people, or if they're just going to pull out completely. I mean, I haven't heard exactly how the Rocket League scene is doing compared to like others. I know Valorant has been a big touchstone lately, and we'll get to that in a second, actually. But it's I guess it's really interesting to see what happens to other esports scenes when another new kind of scene pops up, and it's something that makes like a big kind of like initial impact, like Valorant, in terms of everyone kind of being like, "Oh, I want to play this," and "Oh, I want to watch this," and you know.
Yeah, and I wonder if teams folding has anything to do with that also.
Yeah, it's esports is really interesting because you kind of have to balance like where you're successful, but also where the money is. So like if a new scene pops up and everyone's getting in on it and there's some good money to be made through it, you kind of want to go towards that. But at the same time, it's like, well, we have this Rocket League team that's really good and we want to keep them because it's perhaps like more like guaranteed money. But if it's probably a weird balancing act. But we'll have to see. Stay tuned, I guess, for any more like Rocket League news. I'm not sure when they play next. Rocket League's been actually kind of sparse this year. I haven't seen a lot of play and a lot of events actually. So which could be why maybe we're thinking of getting out of just there's not as many chances to play and win prize money and whatnot.
Yeah, and especially if they're not making the big tournaments.
Yeah, like if they're not qualifying or if they're not placing within like top 4, the any sort of money that they would get from participating probably isn't really worth it.
Yeah, especially with Valorant coming up.
Yeah, and speaking of, we got to see some pretty cool C9 Valorant action actually. It kind of blurred together. Tens, who is our resident Valorant player, participated in the Elite Esports NA Rivalry Bowl along with Shinobi, Infinite, Relics, and Mitch. So it was kind of billed as Tens and Friends. It was, I gotta say, we crushed it, Frozen. We won the whole thing. There was some really interesting talent there. You got to see there was a team called High Ground, which we ended up playing in the finals. That was a group of PUBG players. I think it was actually like a PUBG team. And so it was High Ground, which is PUBG people. You had this Team Sentinel, which was like Sinatra's team, who I think it has like a few Overwatch players. It's like Sinatra and Shazam, and I think maybe one more Overwatch player. But you had them, and they actually washed out, and they actually didn't look really good, which was weird because I think they were billed as one of the favorites. In Mouse Spats, which might become Mouse Spats was like a bunch of like CS:GO pros, and they were really good too. But the competition was surprisingly competitive, actually. But C9 ended up crushing it. I don't think we ever were in a losing scenario for the most part, and it was pretty great to watch. I actually really enjoyed watching some actual professional-ish kind of Valorant.
Yeah, I didn't get to watch it, but I saw it on Twitter where it just seemed like every match was a stomp and just went over really quickly.
I
I
think our
know,
first I think their first game was actually a 13-0. Like the first team that they
damn,
played in that event, they just completely stomped it.
damn, yeah, it seemed like it was going very well, a little
Yeah,
too well.
and
A- and the Twitter account was a shit talking a bunch, which is how I remember us doing
yeah.
well.
Yeah, and I kind of hope that this might actually be the roster that we pick up because it looked really strong and it looked like they had a lot of synergy. Tens did say on stream earlier this week that the roster is supposedly going to be revealed either sometime this week or next. So, of course, like I was hoping that they would reveal it today, but of course, of course,
They will.
C9 C9 usually doesn't like announce things until somehow after we're like, we might do a thing, and then like the next day it's like, hey, we're gonna do this, and it's just like you couldn't
Yeah.
have waited so we could have talked about it.
Or we could um record the podcast at midnight Pacific time on Friday, and they would still find. Oh wait, to screw us
It would
over.
be like literally an hour later introducing our new Valorant roster, and it's
2
like,
a 2
why?
a.m. League of Legends sign Stardock. It's like God.
But yeah, I'm hoping we get some news soon. I'm really excited to see where the kind of competitive scene takes us because we're seeing some teams kind of pop up. TSM announced last week actually they have a Valorant roster, and we're starting to see some events kind of pop up where the game actually releases June 2nd, which I think is it's next week, Tuesday. So wheels are probably going to be coming into motion. I'm not sure how the pro scene is going to work out. I'm really hoping it's not like CS:GO where it's just a bunch of events sort of peppered in throughout the whole calendar, and there's going to be travel and a bunch of other stuff. I think that's just not a good system, and I think you need something more like LCS where you have regional leagues, you play in like just a weekly round robin kind of format, you have a playoffs, and then you have like an international event, and you can do that you can probably do that like 2 to 3 times a year, and it still makes for pretty good content and pretty exciting matches and everything. You don't have to make it to where, oh, we have to play like tonight we have to play in this closed qualifier, but then tomorrow we have to get on a plane to go to like Spain to do the Blast Pro Series Barcelona, but then after that we have to go right back because we have a Flashpoint game, and then after that we can't spend too long because 2 days later we have to go to like New York to do some DreamHack event or something, where it's just constant travel, just constant tiny events and everything that lead up to like a few big events. I think that's just not the circuit method. I feel is just not appropriate for how esports needs to be done. I feel.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what they do because Riot does have the infrastructure to play closed regions, but I'll be interested to see if they go like the route of earlier a League of Legends where it's like DreamHack tournaments and then like there's like unorganized worlds tournaments and stuff, but not like regional leagues. But I guess we'll just have to see.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm really looking forward. I'm hoping that once the game comes out and once we have some more events and stuff, the game will really take off and we can really see like a really structured pro scene. Because if they apply to what they've learned with League of Legends to Valorant, I think it'll be a pretty well-run infrastructure.
Have you been playing Valorant?
Yeah, guess what rank I am, Frozen?
No.
Uh, I'm, I'm Iron
I
1.
don't want to be okay. I would have said bronze.
Don't compliment me.
Yeah.
I was Iron 2 for literally a day, and then I got a match with a couple of throwers that one team killed would team kill our Sova for no reason, and then the other would like just not play the objective. Like they would refuse to like plant bomb or like play around bomb or anything, and they just try to like get kills. And I got demoted after that.
Sounds like Iron.
It's really fucking stupid. But yeah, it's really weird because like I feel like I'm slowly improving, but it's really, really hard.
Yeah, I'm not a huge FPS guy, so I would also be down in Iron 4.
I'm usually not. There's only 3, so like Iron 1 is the lowest, and Iron 3 is
I'd be
actually
in
the
Iron
highest.
4.
Okay.
Don't worry.
But I actually like I'm not usually big into FPSs in terms of like a competitive thing, but I actually really like this game because it feels like really rewarding to play. Like there's a 1-to-1 ratio of your performance and the success that you get from performing well. Because like if you're getting a lot of kills and you're winning rounds and everything, you're getting money to then buy guns, and also with getting kills, like you get your ultimate quicker. And so the more times you get your ultimate, the more you can like really influence on how a round goes. So you're like directly being rewarded from the game for playing well. And I think that that's something that is really great. Like playing League of Legends, especially as an AD carry main, I could do really well in lane. I could be like maybe 3-0, 3-1. That success and that performance is not directly transferred to the rest of the game. And it's something that's really frustrating. Or like an Overwatch, I could have like insane damage, but I'm not playing around the objective. So my damage and what I'm putting out isn't really directly influencing the game. With Valorant, it feels like what I do is directly put into the game. The game is directly putting that back into me. So I really like it, actually.
Oh, well, good. I haven't really played it much, so I don't have much to add. But it does seem cool. I'm interested to watch some more competitive.
Yeah, same. I'm excited to actually try to grind out and improve. I think if I can at least get silver in like a couple of years, that'll be like a really big victory for me.
Hell yeah.
But that's all I can really say for Valorant. Let's move on to Overwatch because we actually have some Overwatch stuff we can talk about. The British Hurricanes Frozen. I know that they don't get a lot of press and a lot of talk. They're crushing it in contenders. They've had like back-to-back week victories. They have this. The format's really weird in that each week is sort of like a tournament, like a bracketed kind of tournament type deal. They've been just demolishing, like I think for a few weeks now in the EU contender scene, and they look like no team can really stop them.
Oh, good. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to watch them either. I think they play.
I think part of the problem is I think part of the problem is that Overwatch moved to broadcasting everything through YouTube because they lost their Twitch contract.
Oh, so that's why
Yeah.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah, that's partially why. Instead of being on Twitch like they used to, I think they Twitch either didn't renew the contract or they got dropped from the contract or what. But they went and made a deal with YouTube, so now they're broadcasting everything through YouTube. So, if you had like Twitch alerts on your phone for when Overwatch plays, you're not going to get those anymore.
Okay, that honestly explains a lot.
Yeah, it does. And plus, since they're in Europe, they usually play around like noon to 2ish. So I'm not sure how free you are to watch.
Yeah, it just depends.
Yeah, but yeah, that's probably why you haven't seen a lot of them. But they've been crushing it. I've seen some of their games. Their roster actually looks much more synergistic and tighter than the London Spitfire roster. I would actually like to see the Hurricanes get swapped out for the Spitfire because they kind of have a feel of like they could be Overwatch League level talent, and at this point, like, what do you have to lose? You're swapping one like tier 2 rookie roster with another. Not much has really changed in terms of level of play, but it feels like the British Hurricanes actually have like a really good synergy going. and they're at least like the big fish in the small pond that is EU contenders.
Yeah, it feels like at some point, I hope some of them would get a call up to some roster, especially with everyone switching to Valorant.
Yeah, I think they will. Like the British Hurricanes have always been kind of the European like farm team. Like I don't know how many Hurricanes players are actually in the Overwatch League now, but I think there's at least like 3 or 4. So like we're always really good at picking talent and like growing that talent, which I think again is a Cloud9 staple of just how we kind of approach games instead of really, oh, we'll just sign the best player with a high skill ceiling and say like you got to carry. You know, we kind of see like, well, this kid has raw potential. If you give me like 6 months to maybe a year, I can elevate him to like another level, you know?
Yeah, and maybe that'll be a route they go.
Yeah, and I guess speaking of the London Spitfire, they did lose to Shanghai Dragons in the Melee event, but something that was surprising. Now, I didn't watch this game because I was asleep. Like the game's at 5. I got home from a night shift, so I immediately went to bed. But I woke up. They went to all 5 maps frozen. It was an incredibly close 5-map series, which is honestly really surprising considering the level that our team is at and kind of the inconsistency in terms of how we've been playing.
Yeah, and Shanghai's been insanely good all year. So
Yeah, they're the
hopefully
top team.
Yeah, and hopefully it's a sign of something better coming up.
I really hope so. I saw on Twitter and I saw the guys were kind of down because they lost a really close game against like a really strong opponent. But I think that a lot of the growing pains in this roster are just you have to find your starters and you have to groom your starters better. You know, it feels like right now like the team's kind of inconsistent because we don't really know like who are we going to start at support. You know, JMac kind of feels really off if he's not playing like the 1 or 2 champions that he can really play. You know, we have two really good like off tank players, but it's like who do we start? You know, Glister is probably going to start, but then it's like, well, do we start Although along with that, or do we play like someone else? You know, there's a lot of just juggling around of like who is slightly better and who can we play. And I think also adapting a new roster is probably twice as difficult because of how Overwatch is right now. That Monty actually had like an episode of Essential Esports on yesterday, and he was talking with some Overwatch people, and he was saying how difficult to groom a roster it actually is now because you have like hero bands that change every week. You have like this rotating map pool. You know, you honestly have no idea like what you're gonna go into in a game anymore, and how to like, you know, instead of like having like, oh well, we have this guy who one tricks McCree, right? And he's the best McCree in the world, like Pine. Pine is not in the Overwatch League anymore because Season 2, Goats was so prevalent that he just couldn't play. And by the time Season 3 came along, there's hero bans and everything, you know, he can't, you know, it's like, what are you going to do? You can't play McCree for like that 1 or maybe 2 weeks, you know, that it's unavailable. You're just not going to play solo queue in Overwatch to try to at least get some practice in. Like, the environment right now is just so incredibly difficult that I actually kind of see why players are kind of switching to Valorant.
Yeah, and it kind of is a double-edged sword because the goats meta, it lasted so long and it was so prevalent that they kind of had to make changes, but I'm not sure if they made the right ones or if they'll be able to fix that with Overwatch 2.
Yeah, and that was something that they kind of touched on, was that they painted themselves into a corner with goats, and they're like, well, how do we fix this? And instead of tuning the game to where you made other roles and other champions just as strong to make like a bigger champion diversity, you're just like, no, we're gonna like we're gonna shackle you to these roles, so it's gonna be forced 2-2-2 lock. We're gonna be banning out characters each week to make sure that this never happens again. and it kind of just hurts some players. Like if you're a hit scan and McCree or something is out, like, well, I can't play this week, because now you got to go double projectile, and I can't play projectile. So now the league is kind of moving towards, like, instead of being a specialist player, you have to kind of be a generalist player and be able to play like a lot of things to kind of cover the spread, and that can be difficult, trying to be able to like be a DPS player and like I can play everything. That sounds like really difficult, probably.
Yeah, and it's kind of the same. The same with League, which is why you don't see a ton of one tricks in LCS.
Yeah, that's true. I think League is at least a bit better because they have bans, but they have the champion pool to really do that. Like banning out one champion isn't the end of the world for a lot of players, because it's like, oh well, they banned this, I can play this and flex to a different pick. But with Overwatch League, they only have about a handful. I think they only maybe have like 20 characters. So if that, they probably have less. And it's just, it's like, I'm really good at this character, but I can't play because the composition that's meta for this ban selection, I just don't have a horse in that race, so I can't play. And one of the coaches mentioned that they said like, oh well, Lynx are just sometimes couldn't play certain weeks depending on what was banned out, and that really sucks. Like, go from where Overwatch was before to where you grinded out like a couple of heroes and like really made a name for yourself on saying like, look, I can play this and this and I crush it every time, and like training yourself to play this certain way, only for now the game to be like, no, you can't play this anymore for a certain period of time.
Yeah, and it kind of is a crappy way to go about it. Doing league-wide bans instead of, say, like a game-wide ban, where you can do bans at the beginning of each game, or at the beginning of each round, or at the beginning of each map, or the beginning of each match. Even like, we're gonna ban McCree for this entire match.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, something like that. And I don't think they went about it the right way, but they did have to do something.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, they, with how GOATS was, like, they needed to do something because it would, like, technically, like, yes, strategically, that was the most ideal situation. And if you're someone who, like, really just appreciates, like, the mechanical necessity, the strategic necessity, and everything of playing a GOATS comp, and the fact that it was the most, like, optimal way to play that game for so long, I get that. But, like, from a spectator point of view, it's fucking boring. You're sitting there for 3 minutes watching tanks hit each other over and over, waiting for everyone to get their ults up, and then it's just sort of like a dueling banjos situation of who can coordinate their ults better than the other team, and it's just so hard to watch because I don't want to watch a game like that. I don't want to like sit there for 5 minutes seeing like almost no action for like 3 seconds of actual fighting.
It sounds like a baseball game, to be honest.
They honestly turned it into a baseball game, Frozen. That's what it was.
Yeah, and I guess at least they're trying, but it seems like Overwatch is falling apart.
Yeah, I think they're trying to bank on Overwatch 2. I think that Valorant definitely hurt them in that you're having like some of your big MVP star players like Sinatra and Corey and other players who are big names in your community say, I'm done with this game, I'm moving to this game. And the fact that you're having these big players that were supposed to be like the faces of your league and try to entice more people to play and everything go to other games, that definitely really hurts your brand. Like I don't want to see Overwatch die. Like, I don't play it anymore, but it's fun to watch. I like watching it. I don't watch it as much anymore, mostly just because of the whole COVID thing. But it's fun. I think it's a really interesting game that takes a really cool spin on the hero shooter kind of genre.
Yeah, and I do enjoy it, but it just feels like it's almost doomed. Like on a highly competitive side, just if people are leaving the game season and leaving their contracts.
Yeah, that's definitely not a good sign. Like the fact that Sinatra left was, I was so
Very surprising.
I was so puzzled that he was like, you were the MVP last year, like you won a championship. Now you're gonna leave like a quarter way through the season, maybe like halfway through this season that's going on for a game that like is in beta. That's a very like huge risk.
Yeah, going from the top to being an average Valorant player, or an average competitive Valorant player.
No, yeah, put the competitive in because he could beat me in so many ways.
No offense, I don't think you're average yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
But you will be.
I will be. But yeah, it's a weird situation. Hopefully they can figure out something to do. I'd say probably next season is definitely going to be the do or die season for them. And if they don't do some really good things for Overwatch for the Season 4 Pro League, it may be it. If viewership continues to dwindle and they do balancing changes and everything that just completely turn the original design philosophy of the game into something that it really wasn't meant to do.
Yeah, and it is a challenge going forward, but I think that's enough for Overwatch League. Can we do one extra bit of news just for fun?
Yes.
Dardoch to Dignitas. I want to say this might be the most Dignitas move ever.
Kind of is. I'm more surprised that he got picked up. Just like there was that whole thing of Lena saying like, "Oh, well, no one wants Dardoch," and you know, maybe her saying that no one wanted him increased his market value because all of a sudden everyone's like, "Well, we can get him cheaper," and all of a sudden he got like a bunch of offers. I'm not sure, but I think it's just surprising that they picked Dardoch because he hasn't really looked that good in a while. And also, he's going to have to be competing with Acadian for a spot. And
Spica too, right?
No, Spica's probably going to be TSM's jungler.
Oh, who was I thinking of then?
I think you're thinking of Grig.
Grig, yeah.
Grig and Acadian are on Dig, but Grig is in Academy, I think. They keep switching Grig and Acadian because they have this weird relationship, and this was on TSM too. Acadian would play, and then Acadian would slump. And then they'd switch him out for Grig, and then Grig would play. And then Grig would be terrible. So then they just have two terrible junglers swapping back and forth.
Yeah, like not only are they getting nerfed by TSM, they're leaving to go to Dig to be further nerfed, and it's just a terrible combination. And now they have three of TSM's former junglers, all who were bad and underperformed. Maybe besides Dardoch, who was actually okay, but they're all going to Dig to die.
I'm really curious on how Dardoch's career is going to go from here, because this is, I think, it's like his sixth team that he's been signed to, and it's honestly like so weird. His career has just like, he's just bounced from kind of team to team. And I remember early on in his career, it was pretty much just like he'd get signed to a team, he'd play for maybe like half a season, and then he'd be gone because it's just like he has behavioral problems. We can't deal with him, and we can't like fix him and make him act like a, you know, like a respectful teammate or whatever. You know, I remember that happened with Immortals. That happened. I remember when he was signed to CLG, and halfway through he just got cut. And you know, it's really weird that his career is kind of like been just kind of ping-ponging around teams, and now his skill is kind of his skill is honestly, I think, kind of eroded because he doesn't have a consistent environment, and he's constantly having to like go on new teams for a split or a year, and then have to change how he plays or whatever to accommodate whoever he's playing with that week.
Yeah, and it does kind of suck to see a North American jungler flounder again. We saw Contracts do it, but it kind of seems like he deserves it, and that he's kind of a dick, and that he's impossible to work with.
Yeah, I can't say that I really feel bad for Dardoch, just because he's gotten kicked from at least 3 or 4 teams because of his personality. You know, sure, that was like more early on in his career, and he's matured now, I think. But he kind of did it to himself. You know, instead of trying to grow and be a better player, he tried to be this like heel of the league, and I'll talk as much shit as I want, and I'll be as much of a dick as I want, but I'm good, so people have to put up with me. And it was clear, like, no, we're not going to put up with you. We'll cut you from the team, and we'll get someone who can at least foster a better atmosphere. And so that kind of stunted his growth at becoming a better player.
Yeah, and he's still relatively young. It's not like he's washed up or anything. So maybe he can change that, but it doesn't seem like that's the case. But I guess we didn't hear anything extremely negative from his time on TSM. So
it wasn't really that noteworthy. It was like they didn't even have like a video or anything saying like, "Oh, Dardoch's leaving. You know, we're sad." It's just like, "Okay, peace, Dardoch. See ya. Here's a picture of him.
Yeah.
He's leaving. Thank you."
Yeah, that's true.
So,
but I remember Dig was supposed to switch their whole roster up, but it doesn't sound well.
I haven't heard anything
like
about if they're getting like a new top lane or anything.
I mean, they shouldn't. They should have just kept Johnson and Greg. But I feel like we should save this for our special podcast coming up.
Yes. When is that again?
We will figure it out.
Okay.
Next week.
It's before the season starts. That much is clear.
I want to say it's next Friday is when it's coming out, but I need to check my notes, because it would be on time for next Friday. That would make sense.
Anyway, I have nothing else to say, so I don't know if you do.
Nope, I'm good.
All right, well, thank you for listening to Bodied, to Cloud9 Fancast. Be sure to follow us at C9 Bodied so you can keep up to date or just hit us up when we're bored. And but thanks for listening. Yes. But thanks for listening, and we'll see you later.
All right, bye guys. Bye.